This is episode 312 of the AM/PM podcast. In this episode, I'm speaking with Mac Schlesinger. Mac grew up in upstate New York, didn't really even speak a whole lot of English at home. It's his second language, but he saw an opportunity in e-commerce and decided to take it and started drop shipping, started doing a lot of retail arbitrage and things like that. And that evolved into seven-figure private label brand, which evolved into him starting one of the top agencies that helps sellers develop their listings. And now he's actually partners in one of the big shows out there called the Powwow show. So a lot of interesting stuff in this episode. I hope you enjoy it.
Welcome to the AM/PM podcast. Welcome to the AM/PM podcast, where we explore opportunities in e-commerce.
We dream big and we discover what's working right now.
Plus, this is the podcast where money never sleeps, working around the clock in the AM and the PM.
Are you ready for today's episode?
I said, are you ready? Let's do this. Here's your host, Kevin King. Kevin King.
Mac Schlesinger, welcome to the AM/PM podcast. It's so good to have you here today. How you doing, man?
Thank you, Kevin. It's my honor to be here. Wow.
Yeah, I know. I think we met several years ago at one of the big events up in Brooklyn, the EDS event, the ASGTG event. I think is that right?
That's where we met, probably.
Yeah, those events are some pretty awesome events. If you're listening to this and you've never been to one of the ASGTG events, ASGTG, you can just Google that. It's an event that's held once a year. Ed Rosenberg puts it on up in Brooklyn area. And it's one of my favorite events to go to. You have a lot of huge sellers. You know, a lot of people don't realize that, I think Amazon came out with a statistic a few years ago, 7% of all the sales on Amazon come out of one zip code in Brooklyn. And there's some serious sellers up in that area that just you don't see them at the Prosper show. You don't see them at the seller cons. You don't see them at a lot of the other shows. They just kind of stay in their own little world up there, but they just some super smart guys and gals that are just crushing it. And so I've spoken at that event a few times, met Mac there. What is it about that community up there that just makes them just so good at selling?
Yeah, listen, it's very interesting how we got into it, but how it developed like that. But knowing my people, it's it's like a community of hardworking, dedicated, and very sophisticated, talented people. Which officially, as the one knows, we don't have a lot of world education. We don't get to college and stuff like that, because we grow up learning and teaching our stuff. But when it comes to the business world, so since we don't have all this professional, these days it's much more common that people go to college, but back in the days, there was no such a thing as going to college or to school to learn all these business related stuff. So when the whole Amazon e-commerce thing came up, which didn't really require a lot of business education and stuff, it's just finding good products, listing it, selling it, and figuring it out.
So I think you said English is not your first language. So where are you originally from? What's your background story?
Right. So I grew up in upstate New York. It's in the Jewish community. It's actually in Monroe, which is it's a very closed community, we speak mainly Yiddish. And by the way, throughout the podcast, I might make some mistakes and say different things because English is not my first language, so I have to think twice before I say something. So it doesn't come naturally, but we'll figure it out. So basically, the way I grew up, we didn't really speak English until I became a teen, or probably 17, 18 years old.
So even though you're in the U.S. And you're in upstate New York there, it's all Yiddish at home. So it's like a self-contained kind of environment.
Yeah, so we speak mainly Yiddish at home, in school, and everywhere. In school, we learn English, the language and writing, reading, math, and all these different stuff. Get some education, but it's not a main focus. It's just a side thing. So
once you kind of went off on your own, or kind of left your parents' nest, what were you doing?
So basically, the way it works is, we grow up, we go to school, then we go to different schools and then we usually get married between the 18 and 25, that range. And usually when we get married, we have to go out and make a living to provide to our family. So that's when we start thinking, okay, with a lack of education and knowledge of English and other world, what can we do? So that's why a lot of this. And since like 10 to 20 years ago, since the whole e-commerce thing started happening, then that's where a lot of our community starts going in there, because we were very good at selling and finding products and doing this type of stuff. So
And e-commerce is kind of easy to actually do it within the community. I mean, you don't have to go out there, and you can do everything online without having to go out and interact, in all these other situations that might not be the most comfortable or might not be the most what you're.
right, and yeah, you don't really have to go out in the public world or like the corporate world and do things. You can just sit in your dining room or your basement and build an empire. So I personally, yeah, that's also I think it was like around 18 to 20 years old, I started getting interested in like knowing the world a little bit more. Like, I started getting like all these, the phones, computers and laptops. And that's what I started figuring out, what can we do with this? What can we do? So I always had a drive to do that, like e-commerce in general. I don't know if it was because it became popular then, or that's my general nature, which I remember when I started, like I was still young. I didn't even know what's going on in the world. I just like the idea of, let's say, taking products from my parents' house and trying to sell it, or take stuff from my friend. My friend had an old, I don't know, like old phone or old thing, and I find a way to sell it on eBay or whatever the other marketplaces used to be back then. So that interested me a lot. So when I grew up and I started reading, I was kind of in the mode where I need to start working. I need to get to build something and make a living. I got really more interested and more serious about doing these things. So that's why I tried all these different types of online selling, like different marketplaces, drop shipping, all this different stuff.
And so this is when you were in your early 20s. You were still pretty young, 18 to 20, you said?
Yeah. The more I got into it, I remember like I used to go to thrift shops and local shopping malls and find deals and reselling, like buying my own mannequin and putting on clothing and taking pictures with my phone and selling it. It was fun. So, but the more I did it, the more the more I did it, the more I realized, okay, what's next? Like I want to go to the next step. Like I want to get real. Until I got into, I got into the private label. Became then like a trend back then, like buying stuff from China and like all this stuff. And I had zero knowledge about it. So I remember I took a quick course about the whole idea, just to get an idea, like how does it work? Like what does it entail? I mean, is it only made for like this rich people out there that that build $1 million companies, or it's also for like people like me? And I'm sitting here in my dusty basement, and maybe I can figure out. Maybe it's not. Maybe I can do it as well. So that's when I got into it. I followed the course, and I got more familiar with the whole idea of e-commerce, like really. I mean, real e-commerce, and not just like taking pictures in America. I mean, like real. Buying stuff, negotiating and sourcing and creating a brand and trying to sell it, and the whole idea. So that's how I got started, and then this took me to more and more places and ideas.
That's awesome. Are you still selling today?
No, so basically, that got me into doing more stuff, and especially the private label. So when I started private label, I gave up on the clothing, and because all these courses was trying to recommend you to find small, lightweight products, all these rules and stuff. So I started doing swimming gear, which is like swim goggles, bathing caps, nose clips, all these swim-related products. And then also fitness products, like all these rubber bands, these resistant bands, and some other exercise fitness-related products. So I basically tried both of them, and the swimming products was more successful. So I stick to those. Like I created a brand, the logo, and the whole thing, and that's it was going pretty well. I did that for a few years, and later on I got into more like the services world, and we'll talk about later how I got into it. But so once I got into the services, I stopped selling products. So right now I'm not selling any products. I'm mainly focusing on servicing other sellers to help them succeed.
So on the sales side, what kind of sales did you build that like swimming brand to? Like what, 6 figures, 7 figures? What kind of?
Yeah, it got to 7 figures, but since I was so bad at like at business, like financials and all this stuff, I mean, I know that I made a lot of sales, but wasn't so profitable because I didn't know what I was doing. I was just trying things and figuring things out. But I built it to 7 figures. I could have built it more, but I kind of got stuck where, like, at the same time I was growing my family. I already had like 3 kids back then, and I was kind of, under the pressure of providing, like, bringing in income. So this, I mean, it made a lot of money in and out, but it didn't really. At the end of the month, I couldn't I couldn't figure out, to make a living of it. So I was kind of forced to take another job. Like, while I was already sort of an entrepreneur, like all this, I was forced to take a job, make an income, a living. That job actually got me into where I.
So that happens a lot in this business, where you have people they're entrepreneurs, they get into it, they're selling, they're doing 6-7 figures, they've got cash flow, but at the end of the day, they're really not business people per se, and they're not actually making money. They got cash flow, but they're not actually making money. And so what happens a lot of times is those people along the way, they learn some things, and I see that a lot of them then turn into a service provider. They become a PPC agency, or they become a listing agency, or they take some sort of core thing that they were actually good at as part of their business, and then they make that their new business. And that's kind of what you did, right?
Right. Yeah. So by me, it was a little bit different. It wasn't like, okay, you know what, I can't make money from selling. Let's do services, because it actually happened by accident, and it happened by other people. Because basically, once I told you that I got into that job, which was my position was basically to manage the Amazon account and build up all the listings. Basically, it was a very big company that did all the. They were very popular on eBay. They wanted to build up the Amazon account, so I went in and I built up the whole. I rebuilt all the listings, all the stuff. So that was also a part which I figured things out about myself, like who I am, what I'm good at. So since I was doing that, I figured out. I mean, people around me, like my coworkers and stuff like that, they realized that my specialty is not the selling. It was more the creative part, which is like creating the listings, enhancing images, and fixing up all these mistakes, like keywords and stuff like that. And actually, I had a few coworkers which left their job, and they went either started their own Amazon company, or they started working at a different Amazon company. So they hired me on the side to make their listings. I didn't even know why or how. I mean, back then I had very low. My issue was like I had very low self-confidence, like to know what I'm good at, what I do. So, I mean, I'm very grateful and thankful to all these people that they recognize what I'm good at, and they actually supported me. Like, they pushed me to do it. So I was like, me? Well, why do you want me? I don't know. They told me, Mac, this is what you're good at. I want you to do it. So I was like, okay.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So you found your calling there, and within this selling on Amazon, this e-commerce space, and that's building listings. So then what did you do? You spun that off. You worked for them for a while.
No, so basically, I stayed at the job at the same time, and on the side, like at night, I did the listings for them, like for my friends, my ex coworkers. So, but at some point, I was like, I think after a year working there, I was like, okay, what's next? Like, I'm working at this job, I'm making like I think $700 a week. What's next? Like, I can't keep on doing this for the rest of my life. So I started looking into different things. At first, I was thinking maybe I should go back into my Amazon company, like the swimming products, maybe build it up, and there's so much potential. Maybe build it up, focus on it. Or maybe, I don't know, I was so confused. And one day, actually, it was very interesting because we have, like, in our community, we have like the different WhatsApp groups. There's groups on WhatsApp among Amazon sellers. We discuss, people discussing, ask questions. I mean, by now I have my own group, but back then, it was a very popular group out there, and someone asked who they recommend for listings, like to build out the listings, and someone somehow posted my name. Like, back then, I didn't do it as a living. I didn't do it even as a business. I just did a favor here and there. So he posted my name, and people started contacting me. I was like, who posted my name? I'm not doing it. This is not my business. And it was very interesting, but at the same time, I was like kind of desperate to leave my job, and I wasn't sure which route I'm going. So I decided, maybe I should take the leap. So I responded to one of them. I told them, yes, I'm doing listings. How can I help you? So he said that they have a lot of products and they want to redo their listings because it was done very poorly, and they're ready to enhance it. And I had zero confidence, zero knowledge. Like they rely on me to build up the listing. What happens if it flops? If it just So they said, you know what, let me give you one listing. If we like it, then we'll give you many more listings. So I was still working at that job. So over the weekend or some nights, I worked on that one listing. I perfected it. It was amazing. It was beautiful. Then I sent it to them, and they're like, wow, they're very intrigued. They're very surprised how good it is. They want me to do all of the listings, like 40, 50 listings. And I was still working at the job, so I didn't know how I'm gonna manage it, how I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna finish it. And I didn't want to tell them that my situation, because I wanted them to feel like they can rely on me. But inside me, I knew that I'm not ready for it. So I told them, okay, no problem. So I will do it. We'll figure it out. At that time, I realized, you know what? I have this opportunity. I mean, it doesn't promise me any long-term things, but at least now I'm desperate to leave that job, and I was looking for something, and this is what I found now. I decided I'm going to give notice to my ex-boss, and I'm going to leave the job, and I'm going to focus on these listings. I mean, it's 40, 50 listings. It can take a while, and I can make a nice amount of money, and I can live off probably like for a few weeks. So I jumped in.
What did you charge per listing back then?
So I think it was very $100 a listing.
$100 a listing?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because I didn't even know the market, like how much to charge, how many hours it takes me per listing. I just throw a price. Okay, $100. I said, let's do it.
Wow. Okay. No wonder they said, here, if they like the first one, here's 40 more.
Yeah. Yes, and I'm sure that when they went to the other professional companies, it was like $200-$300. So it was like $100 a listing, and it's doing a pretty decent job. Then why not? Let's give him everything. So I quit that job, and I got into these listings. I started figuring out I was working nonstop, like many hours, like during the day, to finish all the listings, because I had to present, I had to act to them like I'm a professional company and like I know what I'm doing, even though I know that I'm not. So I did that, and then after that was done, it took me like probably 3 weeks to finish everything, and everything was good, it was perfect. And then they wanted to give me more, but they said that I have to wait for the season, like it's a whole process, whatever. So then I found myself in a place where I quit my job. I finished this 40, 50 listings. What's next? Like, how do I get, if I want to do that, how do I get more listings? That what kind of pushed me to start telling people what I'm doing. I mean, for me, it was very hard. I never really wanted to get into the service business, because I was always like a very shy and quiet. I like to work in my corner and not talk to people, just do my thing. Mm-hmm. But since I got into the job, I realized that I need to start going public and telling people what I do and start selling myself. Because otherwise, how am I gonna get more listings? So that kind of pushed me to do that. So I started going out. First, I decided, you know what? Let's make it official. I'm gonna start a company, come up with a name. And the funny part is that 2 weeks after that, there was like a little event in my community. Like, it wasn't like a big event like this. It was more like a little event in someone's house, and they called me. They asked me if I wanna exhibit there, like be a sponsor. Mm-hmm. And it was funny because I had no idea what a sponsor means, what exhibit means. Like, what am I supposed to do? Like, how does it work? So they said, no, you just have to come with some business cards and talk to people, tell people what you do. I mean, at first I didn't want to do it because I was, as I said, I was very, very shy, and I couldn't see myself going into a networking event and going to people, tell them, hey, I do listings, how can I help you? But then I realized that this is what I do. I jumped into it. Now I have to figure out how to get it done. So I kind of pushed myself, and I actually did it. I created I remember like back then I created like overnight, like a night before the event. I realized that I need some content to show people what I do. So I put together like a quick brochure, like what my services and the pricing, because I tried to copy. I tried to look at other companies, what people do. So I tried to come up with something. Then I bought some quick cheap business cards and a local printing company, and I went to that event, and people starting to get to know me.
When was this? When this listing process started? When the company that hired you to do the 40, and then you went to the house, and how long ago was that?
So that was at the end of 2016.
Okay, so about 6 years or so almost. Yeah. And so since then, you've become one of the go-to people for if they want to create listings, if they need marketing strategies or A plus content or their listings. How big is the company now? What's the name of the company and how big is the company now?
So the name is called, the company name is Bestseller Listers. So that's a company name. And that's,
So how many people are working for the company now?
so right now we have 14 people. It's a combination of some project managers, designers, writers. I mean, I used to have more, but then I realized that it's not about having more, but it's about sticking to the perfect employees and doing the, because once it got out of control, it was too much. It was growing too fast. So now we have like 14, and everything works on the system with all the processes and softwares, and it runs very smoothly.
So it's not you doing everything anymore. You got a whole team.
Right. That was a challenge, because the more I started promoting myself and getting more of this, I more work and more clients. I started slowly like hiring a listing guy. I mean, then I rotated so much till I find the right people. But then I extended. Now we do product photography. Now we do graphic design. Now we do EBC. Now we do storefront. So slowly it started growing more and more.
So what do you see when someone comes to you right now, when a new client comes to you and they've got their listings up? What are some of the key things that you see immediately, like, oh my gosh, we got to fix this, and this? What are some of the big mistakes that a lot of sellers that are doing their own listings, or maybe they had another company do them, that you're having to constantly correct, that people need to be aware of?
Right. So usually people contact me all the time, like, please look at my listings. See, I know that we have so much more potential, but it's not where it's supposed to be. Like, what can you do to enhance it? So the first thing I'll look through, I mean, obviously you can do like a deep research, but you can quickly see on a listing, first of all, the size of the title, the bullet point description, to see if they have anything at all. A lot of people come to me, very surprising that people, I mean, back in the days, it wasn't so necessary because it wasn't so competitive. So it wasn't so necessary to have like a real optimized listing in order to succeed. But now you can see people are still, especially people from back in the days, they still have this old fashioned listing, which is very not optimized. You can see right away that it's missing. But even if
so what's an old fashioned listing? What's an old fashioned listing look like? Just for those listening, what would that be? Like a really short title, or would that be like no bullet point? What's an old-fashioned listing?
Yeah, it's like a very simple title. I mean, very simple, like, I don't know, a plastic water bottle, 2 ounce, like 12 ounce, whatever. It doesn't have any cue. And also the bullet points, like, it's very old-fashioned, like BPA free, like all this very dry, you can have so much more. I mean, people have to realize that the listing is like you're a salesperson. Like, you walk into a store and you want to know more about a product, the salesperson comes over, he explains to you everything about the product. On Amazon, you can't have that, so this has to be your listings.
So what kind of listings do you think are the hardest to make? Are there certain products that are just maybe harder to make a listing for, and other products that are just really easy to make a listing for?
Oh, it's pretty interesting. I mean, there are definitely in certain categories. For example, when it comes to like complicated product, which is products which are not like everyday products that you have at home, you're familiar with, which is more like industrial types of products, construction types of products, which is like has like different specs and different stuff which you have to research and get information. So that's more complicated, and to make sure that it's usually you have to go back and forth until you get all the information right, because it's not really part of the creative stuff, it's more like the technical stuff which you have to get right. So if a product has a lot of like electronics, sometimes has a lot of technical information, and if you make a mistake, if you put the wrong information and people buy it according to that information, then you get like negative reviews because it's the wrong information. So that's a little more tricky. But if it's like a regular everyday product that people, I don't know, toys or kitchen products that you have at home, and doesn't have a lot of features or technical specs, then these are more easier.
So what about A+ content, or EBC, some people call it? And then there's a new one that Amazon, that just announced, the premium one that used to cost like $250,000 or something, for the big brands, and now they just open it up to everybody for basically for free, at least for a while. What kind of difference do you think those actually make if you have that? And what are some mistakes that people make when they're creating those? They're using the same pictures over and over again, or what are some things that people need to be aware of when it comes to A+ or EPC or some of the new stuff that's just been announced?
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, since we deal with a lot of sellers every day about this stuff, and some sellers are like, I don't know, is it important to spend the money for it? I don't know. Especially someone that has like 100 listings, he needs to spend a lot of money to get it done. So they're kind of on the fence if it's really important or not. But the truth is, when it comes to the A+ part, which is, I mean, the regular listing you have basically the space of the bullet points and the main images. That's all you have to really try to sell your product. But sometimes, especially with the limitations that Amazon has, how big the title can be and what information you can have on the images and how big the bullet points can be, you don't have a lot of flexibility on really explaining your product and showing off your product as it's supposed to be. So the A plus EBC it gives you a much bigger real estate to really explain your product and really sell your product. I mean, now with the premium A plus, that's a blessing, because I don't know if you saw like the difference between the A plus. Actually, just made an article like explaining the difference between the regular A plus and the premium A plus. You can have so many different banners. You can, for example, we just did this for a flashlight. It has like different modes. So on the premium A plus, you can click a button and it shows the actual difference of the flashlight, how strong it goes, how big,
Oh, cool.
Even something that extends. You can click a button, it extends, it goes smaller. It's very cool what you can do with the premium A plus. Besides the fact that you can put in a video, but even without a video, you can have so many different. Especially when you have A plus, you have especially even premium A plus. There's no doubt. I mean, when a customer goes into your product and if it's done really well, then there's almost no chance for a customer to leave your listing without a sale.
So would you recommend then everybody that has maybe just the old A plus, they need to upgrade to the new premium? Should that be a priority?
I mean, obviously, but the problem is that it costs a lot of money to do it. I mean, I'm sure that most agencies, most designers will charge a lot of money to get it done, because it's a lot of work. It's not just like a few pictures here and there. And you asked me about the mistakes that people do, and I see it so many times that people come to us, they want to enhance the listings. They come to us with a very poor A plus content, which is just their logo and the same picture that they use on the top, like the main images. It doesn't really say anything. It's misproportioned, like the layout and the whole thing. It basically has to show like a big page, like a website, like a landing page.
So what does it cost to use a company like yourself? What's just a general ballpark? If I said, hey, here's my listing, I want you to redo it. I want a total listing makeover from top to bottom. A plus, premium A plus, just what would I be looking at? $1,000, $2,000, or what would I be?
Yeah, I mean, obviously there are different agencies out there, different people out there. Everyone charges their price. But so, for example, my company, we have like different packages, which includes like the content, the photography, the graphics, the A plus. So right now the top package is like $1,200, which gets you everything, like the full listing copy, photography, 7 nice graphic images, and a beautiful A plus content. So now that we start doing the premium A plus, it's going to be a lot more, probably like in the $2,000 range, because it's much more work. But that's approximately it. So it's like a small investment. I mean, if you look at it per product, it's not a lot of money. You spend $1,000, or even let's say $1,500 once, and it's done forever. You don't have to redo it every day.
Are you also doing the keyword research, or do the clients come to you with like, these are the keywords I want to target, or is that part of the deal as well?
Yeah, that's part of the deal, because we train our team, like especially our writers, and this to really master like the keyword part of, because the writers are like professional writers, they know how to sell like sales copy, but the keywords are totally different. So we have like a team that work together, the project manager, the writers. And then we have a keyword specialist that specializes in that part. So all together, put together a beautiful puzzle, because a listing has to be a combination of 50% for the algorithm, 50% for the customers. So the keywords is a very big part. Some sellers only focus on the keywords because they think that once the algorithm has it, it's good. But the truth is that the algorithm is not buying your product. I mean, maybe they bring up your product, but they're not actually clicking add to cart and they're buying it. So that's what the customers are doing. So you have to make sure that it has the perfect balance of the algorithm bringing it up and having a good sales copy for the conversion to get a customer to click add to cart.
So now you're doing something besides the listing service. You're come really out of your shell, and you're actually putting on events as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's also interesting how I got. So that's what I said in the beginning. Like one thing that the more I built myself up, one thing got me into the next thing, because I always think that way. Like what else? Like what's next? So it's interesting that from running that company and getting a little popular on LinkedIn or on WhatsApp, whatever, where I try to help the community, and people started asking me like, how about you start doing events, like get people together and learn from them. So I was like, I don't know, there's so many events out there already. Why do I need to make another event now? So people said, no, but you have like your own style, your different type of personality, and people enjoy this. So so it was interesting. So I basically I never really wanted to do like this big corporate just because I couldn't think so big back then back in the days. So I never imagined myself like running a big show. So I started by I wanted to do more like a chilled event. Like I love when people come together and have a good time on my expense. So I wanted to do like right now I live in Towns River, New Jersey, which we have like big properties and stuff. So I wanted to do in my backyard like a little get together networking event for sellers and have a good time. You know, the barbecue with smoking cigars and DJ, you know, like this type of stuff. And I discussed it with a few people, but I couldn't do it. Like I was like, should I do it? How should I do it? Until I got Joel Wall. I don't know. You probably know Joel Wall.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So he basically he used to be my neighbor here, and we once did an event for a real estate company in my backyard. And like a similar thing that I had in mind, and because they basically was looking at like it was back in COVID, people couldn't do events like in the event venues, so they were looking for a nice backyard where they can do it. So they found my backyard somehow, and I did it for them. That's when I realized, how about we do the same thing? So Joe also came, so that's when we realized, how about we do the same thing for Amazon? We can do the same thing with Amazon, like call people over, like bring a party planner, build a nice thing. And we actually started posting it. Like we wanted to hear like feedback from sellers, and surprisingly, a lot of sellers were like, "Sure, of course, we will do it. We'll come, excited." So
And that's called called Powwow, right?
Yeah, the Powwow.
And you do one in New Jersey, and then you do another one, I think in the Florida area, right? The Miami area.
Yeah. So we started in New Jersey, which is our area, like in Lakewood, New Jersey, where all the three of us live in. You know, Toms River and Lakewood, Jackson. Like we live in the area. And this is where we did it the first time, just test the waters to see what you're doing. And thank God it was like a very successful. People showed a lot of interest, and because the three of us, we have like very different personalities. Like it's not like a serious. I mean, we have the combination of being serious, professional, and fun. So that's why it worked.
So how many people come to a POW? What's the attendance usually?
So the first event was like a small venue, so we limited to like I think it was like 300-400 attendees. And then in Miami we grew. It was like 600-700. It kept on growing. So and then the next event we were like aiming for 1,000 attendees. So it keeps on growing because the more we do it, like we're doing bigger venues and bigger stuff. So it keeps on growing. Thank God.
Now, something happened along with one of these events. There was a post that kind of went viral or something, right? That actually caused some trouble. I think there's a lot of misunderstanding or something around that. Is there anything you want to clear up on that?
Yeah, that's an episode for itself. So basically, it was actually me. We were actually working on an event, which we called it the aggregator show, because as you know, like the whole industry reaching out to the aggregator field, like people are selling their companies, the aggregators are buying their companies. So we want to do it. We wanted to do an event specialized specifically for this category. So we did an event. We called it the aggregator show, and it was here in New Jersey. It was like more like an intimate, like a smaller, upscale, exclusive event. And it happened basically, I think a week before the event. I was kind of in some mode. I mean, it was after our party. I wasn't drunk, but I was like a little tipsy. So I came up late at night, and I was kind of in the mode of, okay, because usually when it comes to events, like usually the last week or two is when crunch time hits.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's when people really sign up and people get interested. So I was like, okay, I gotta start doing something. Like, let's continue. I mean, I didn't start because we kept on promoting it for weeks and months. But I was like, okay, what else can I do? And especially I was a little tipsy, so it wasn't hard to, to brainstorm and stuff. So I think it was back then. It was a few days before in the news it was more popular, like the news about like the whole war between Russia and Ukraine. So I mean, by the time I posted it, it wasn't anything serious going on. It was just like thoughts or saying that it's gonna happen, maybe whatever. And I was like, we are here building like one of the biggest events in the Amazon industry. I was like, I don't even remember the exact content, but I basically made like so I basically compared building like the biggest Amazon event and going like the next week it's going to happen, whatever, to the Russia-Ukraine war somehow. I don't remember. I didn't even remember the context. But I posted it, and it was late at night. It was like 1:00 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
And right after I posted it, I went to sleep. Like I posted and I went to sleep. I didn't even think about it, and I didn't even think what I posted. Just like any other post and move on. And then in the morning, I woke up in the morning and I see that my phone didn't start ringing. Like my wife was like, I went to the shower. My wife was like, your phone keeps on ringing. My partners are calling me. Companies are calling me. Like, what happened now? I mean, I couldn't even think what happened. So I took a shower. I was like, calm. I don't know. We'll see you later. We'll get dressed and we'll see what's going on. And then people were like, no, you don't have time for that. And I looked at my phone. I was like, please delete the LinkedIn post immediately. Please delete the LinkedIn post. Like, what did I post? Which post are you talking about? Like, well, what is happening? Then I went down to my LinkedIn and I realized that I posted that post, which was a bad mistake. And because at that night, it was funny because that night when we woke up, that's when the whole war started, like more like officially, like things started to happen. So it was like bad timing. And the first thing I did, I deleted the post before knowing what's going on. I deleted the post because I knew it's wrong. And then I started waking up, started getting into it. I was like, what is happening? Why should I delete it? Why did I post it? Why should I delete it? And then I saw what people are saying. So it was a whole mess. So that was a week before the event. And I got into the office and I realized that a lot of the vendors and some of the attendees or speakers, whatever, they got very sensitive about it, and which was right because it's a very bad mistake. And they were like, they want to back out. They don't want to be part of this an event that writes this type of content.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, I mean, for me, I didn't even know what I was doing. I didn't even know how bad it was because to be honest, for me, since I'm a person that I don't really follow the news, I don't really like know what's going on. I just hear from here and there, and I try to use the current situations on my marketing account. This is where all these marketing. But I didn't even realize how sensitive it is to certain people. And then once I started seeing what's really going on in the world, in the war, I was like, wow. I mean, I felt bad for myself for doing it. Like, man, you can't do that. But the truth is, back then I didn't even know what's and also, I mean, people took it out of context, which was the wrong impression, which people thought I'm a bad person. How can you write such a thing? But the truth is, I mean, if you know the whole thing, I didn't even know. I didn't even know what I'm doing. Like also, as I said, like English wasn't my first language. So when I'm posting, I'm not really like. Sometimes it comes off wrong as what I really mean.
So did a lot of people end up backing out? What happened in the end? Did the show go on, or did?
Yeah. So some people backed out, and it was a problem because it was a week before the event. We spent a lot of money in it, and we couldn't cancel the event. Like we started to figure out what's going on. So I decided that together with my partners, that I have to resign. I mean, I deserve it. Like I did it. It happened. It doesn't matter if if I didn't mean it or whatever. But it happened, and people got offended by it, and I have to take the responsibility. So I resigned from the event like then, and so my partners went out to tell the people that I'm not involved anymore. So it was a mistake, and I take responsibility, and I don't want the event to. I don't want my partners and all these other people involved to get affected because of my mistake.
So are you still involved? So you resigned? Have you gone back to the company, or are you still completely?
Well, basically, I resigned, and I started focusing back on my other companies. So after that, at that event, I went as an exhibitor with my companies, my two companies that I have. And after the event, I came back officially, publicly. I come back like before.
Cool. I'm glad you were able to work through that and get that corrected. That's important. It's unfortunate that happened, but I'm glad everything in the end has been settled and worked out. So when's the next Powwow event?
So the next one, we're working on a local event, which is more like a smaller, specifically for the community, like in the upstate New York area, where I grew up, actually. Mm-hmm. And that's like a smaller, intimate event. And then now we're starting to expand into like general business events, not only Amazon. So the Powwow event is becoming more like a general event company. It's not like an Amazon event company. It's a general event company, which we do Amazon events and we do other industry events as well. So now we're working on a B2B business-to-business expo for general business people. I mean, mainly in our community, but it's not limited to our community. It's like for everyone.
Awesome. Well, Mac, I really appreciate you taking some time today and sharing your story and talking about everything. If people want to reach out or find out more about you, what's the best place for them to do that?
So the main sources is basically LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn and WhatsApp. WhatsApp, I'm kind of active there. I have like a special WhatsApp account, mainly for business. I mean, I have one personal, one for business, which I usually keep it active with posting statuses mainly about the Amazon industry, like all the different news that's coming out and tips and tricks. And have like the WhatsApp group, which is called like Amazon Best Sellers, which is a very popular group among Amazon sellers. People are asking questions, helping each other.
Awesome. Well, Mac, I appreciate it again, man. I hope business keeps going well for you, and I'm sure I'll be seeing you in New York or maybe at a Powwow event.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be an honor to have you come speak at our upcoming Powwow event. I mean, we'll be in touch with you when it is, where it is, to see if you're available, stuff like that. I mean, people love you in our community. People are looking forward to your speeches every time.
Awesome. Thanks, Mac. Appreciate it.
Okay.
I really like how e-commerce can give an opportunity to just about anybody, regardless of your education level or where you come from or what language you speak. As Mac is a perfect example of that. Started doing e-commerce, was successful, pivoted into finding his true passion, which is helping people build amazing creative listings, and now is doing the Powwow event to actually help other sellers and give back to the community and bring everybody together. So it's always a great story when I get to have a guest like Mac on the show. And don't forget to check out the Helium 10 Elite. Every month we do a live training, about 3 to 4 hours long, where we have several guests come on, talk about the latest strategies and techniques for selling on Amazon and e-commerce in general. I do 7 ninja hacks. Plus, as a Helium 10 Elite member, you get access to some really cool special tools that are not available to the public. You get increases in your limits on some of the things that you can do. One of those tools is a pretty cool tool where you can upload a list of keywords, and then it spits back a downloadable spreadsheet that has a bunch of fields added to it. That's just one of the many tools. Plus, as a Helium 10 Elite member, you get access to the weekly roundtables, and including a roundtable that I do once a month, where for 2 or 3 hours, we just talk about everything Amazon. We help each other out if someone's got a problem with their account or needs an idea on something. We talk about the latest strategies, what's happening. So check out Helium 10 Elite if you haven't yet. Before we leave this week, I just want to leave you with some words of advice. If you want to buy things without looking at the price, then you need to learn how to work without looking at the clock. Again, if you want to buy things without looking at the price, then you need to learn how to work without looking at the clock. We'll see you again next week when we'll be talking about using Google to drive traffic to Amazon. Thanks.